is up, my fellow Blackbeard pirates? I am Marshall D. Monkey, joined as always by Jesus Aggie.
Oh, that reminds me, I need to get my luchador mask. Woo, woo, woo.
Oh yeah, what happened to that? Where's that at? Oh, forgetful Frank shows up again.
Hold on. Well, I mean, yeah, listen, in my defense, okay, not spoiler alert, but basically what we get, like, basically the last panel is when our good friend Jesus comes back, and I ain't talking about the end of times, but it might be the end of somebody's time here pretty soon. I'll get it today. I will place the order at the end of this episode, folks, so make sure to stick around, watch every minute so you can hold me to your word, or my word, or somebody's word.
We get the name drop of Jesus, but no Jew wall reference to be found. Likely forgotten forever. Aggie, there's not very much going on in the second half of Jaya, which is, volume 25 we're covering today. Chapters 227 to 236, I believe. Kind of boring. Nobody really cares about these chapters. Should we just... when you come over to my house, sometimes I make you watch random episodes of Boba Bo. Sometimes you see random episodes of Mob Psycho 100. Should we just review those instead? Because, who cares about the second half of Jaya? Is there anything even noteworthy here to discuss?
Listen, I'm a man that loves action, but I have to say, to be honest, I think this volume is the only time in up to this point in this entire series where I was reading a chapter, I completed a chapter, and I went out of my way to find the correlating anime episode.
Oh, wow. Which one? Is it the Bellamy fight?
Oh, not quite. No, this was the Pursue the South Bird.
Oh, what? You had to watch them be lost in the woods and fight bugs?
Well, I'm reading through it, once again, a little ahead of myself here. But this bird, I'm thinking, we're going into this. I'm thinking that this is going to be nothing. Like, we're going to have one chapter. They're just going to go through the woods. They're going to find the bird. It's going to be just so simple. But once they start splitting up, and I'm seeing them get into this conflict, and then I see the smuggest bird that I've ever seen. I mean, Toucan Sam can't even hold a candle, okay? This is an incredible personality just emanating from this bird, and even further after they do, spoiler alert, capture the bird. So this bird had such a personality that I went through. I just had to see how this was going to translate to the anime, because I had an idea in my mind. Maybe it was something for me, I just wanted to prove that my immediate first inclinations of how it would be true. And I have to say this, I actually did end up watching the episode because... excuse me, I'm looking for it, and it covers these. I don't know the anime that well because I haven't kept up to it up to this point. I haven't been following it, so I'm striking at random episodes, and then I'll get to the first second and see oh, that was 3 volumes ago, and then I skip ahead a little bit and I'm like, okay, this looks kind of right, but what if I watch it and get spoiled so I can't watch it? And then I went, and there were YouTubers that would react to the anime episodes, and they're not reading the manga. And they're covering a dozen episodes. I'm like, that's too much. I'm going to strike into something. So I never got to prove myself right.
You never even found it.
I didn't want to risk a spoiler. I'm trying to stay here to the game.
The anime episode titles have spoilers in them, very much so. So it's probably literally called Find the South Bird. And there are character deaths. It might not seem like it, so far in One Piece, but at some point characters will die permanently. And when they do, oftentimes the death will be the chapter title, spoiling the contents of the chapter completely.
All right, so that's true. Yeah.
Or at least the anime title does that. So yeah, I guess just perusing the episode list, you might get spoiled. So yeah, I guess maybe it's for the best that you stopped looking.
Yeah, I tried, I was hitting on it early, and then I'm like, oh no, that's way far in the past. And I'm going a little bit, and I'm just seeing 1 second in. If I wasn't familiar with the first 1 second, I'm like, no, that can't be right. So I got to keep it true to the game. I said, you know what? Better for me to not prove my own nonsense theory that doesn't really matter at all in my mind versus, just cast that out and stay spoiler free.
So what exactly is your anime theory of how they're going to adapt this bird?
I just, from having watched the anime. Like, there's been a couple of times where we'll read a particular chapter that we really enjoy, and then like when we go hang out, we'll watch the correlating episode there, and you can see how they will actually storyboard in the anime for that chapter. They're using like direct panels from the manga and basically just, you know, animating the, not even just an adaptation, but just like that's the panel and it's animated now. But I just felt like, you know, as I'm reading this bird, I don't know, there's something about this bird. I don't know, like, I guess there's a reason why they made the bird into a gold statue. This bird is just, he's got the riz. I don't know, I couldn't help it.
I think the best joke in the volume is when the bird only can face south, and then he wants to fuck with them because he doesn't like being their prisoner. So, like, Luffy's, like, turning his head, and then it turns back, and the bird's like, okay, fuck you guys, I'm gonna stare north. And then, like, he gets really anxious, and he's sweating, and he has to turn back. That got a good chuckle out of me. And I should clarify, while Egi and I do watch Bobobo and Mob Psycho and he sees random episodes, I was joking. Jaya is an A-tier arc for me. And the Blackbeard reveal is my top of mind. Clearly the Southbird is for you.
Well, actually, I would say, listen, maybe I'm a little goofy, but there is one thing that... the thing about the Blackbeard reveal, okay, it's right at the end. So let's say, like, up... Everything else besides that, because I feel that's very monumental, and honestly, I think even to me, maybe more the fact that we get to lay our eyes on the strongest man on Earth. I mean, to me, just
Whitebeard, that's right.
Just to even see that, I mean, so this was like, to me, more than anything in this volume was just like, I make video game analogies here a lot, but like crossing into the next section in the map, like, wow. Like opens up, like it was all black question mark over here, and we get like a lot of this. But aside from that, the fact that in the manga here, the very first chapter, we have Noland the Liar is the first chapter, and it's based on this story which they read through in this chapter, and I couldn't help but notice that the tale here is
familiar.
Well. Yeah, I
found you've heard it before.
Oh, you know, well, maybe I have, probably have, but I just have to say this: it's penned in cursive, and from what I understand, you know, not a lot of people are reading cursive anymore. So I'm like sitting there, and to me, it looks like just regular, normal script. I would be curious if we have any Zoomers out there in the audience that never got taught cursive in school because they abandoned it. If this looks like complete indecipherable mistakes, I think it still shows enough, and then there's also so much context around the myth that we then see in the following chapters, and sort of getting Mont Blanc's his interpretation of it, and along with his genealogy and everything. So I think that it's still understandable regardless, but I just thought that was interesting, and it, you know, hung on me for probably a couple chapters anyway. Like, I think about strange things, and that was one of the things that came to mind for me. But completely overshadowed in the second half of this volume, absolutely. I mean, to be honest, the Bellamy fight went about as much as I expected that it would, and it was really not all that for me compared to just the lore dump.
I like that Luffy just beats him with one punch, though. That's pretty good. But to back up to Noland the Liar... you have heard that story before, because for some reason in the live action, when Zoro is passed out after the Mihawk fight, and Nami is not retreating to Arlong Park and is still with them because these writers are retards, she reads Noland the Liar storybook to Zoro, and it's like almost in its entirety. So
they're still at, yeah, they're
that's at the Barati, the fucking ship, or the restaurant. They threw that shit in early.
I thought that I remembered her reading it to him like while they were in Kaya's mansion, but I guess that's not right.
No, Zoro was passed out, I believe. And then, about the cursive, I wonder, does Japanese kanji have an equivalent to cursive? Because, like, I don't know what they're translating here.
Yeah, it was just the translator's stylistic decision. That would be interesting. I guess I don't have the raws, so I'm not sure if I think if we had the raws, we could discern if there was any difference between that and the regular text panels. But
yeah, because the implication would be if they're putting out this book in cursive, it's like they don't want the common lower people to be able to read it because it's written in a more sophisticated way. But the book itself is propaganda, Like, it shows, like, the king valiantly fighting a sea monster on the thing. So, like, wouldn't they want the common people to be able to read it if it's just propaganda for the kingdom?
You would think so, yeah. I guess I could see it, too, like, how often have we been reading? We have, like, the bounty posters, the wanted posters. Have we often been reading people's writing at any point here? Because maybe perhaps we're just seeing the text that is, just the text panels, the speech, the descriptive words and everything like that. But maybe it is still commonplace at this time in the universe that everybody reads and writes in a cursive text.
Well, when I think Sanji left a note behind for Crocodile that I think was written in normal English, probably not cursive Japanese equivalent, but I don't fucking know. Somebody else tell us, because we don't know what we're talking about. I don't know what the book looked like in Japanese, so. But I'm glad that Noland the Liar's top of mind, because I love Mont Blanc Noland and cricket and the Monkey Brothers. They finally grow on me in this volume after being so annoying last time. So I guess, you gotta be antagonistic at first before the Straw Hats will be your friend, I guess. That often happens. Mm-hmm. Anything else from your top of mind, Aggie?
Well, I think overall, I have to say, I mean, even with the other Warlords making some of the Warlords making their first appearances here, I think, to me, just to be able to lay my eyes on Whitebeard, I think that was really just probably the most monumentous thing in this chapter, even besides the Blackbeard reveal, because he's got a name for himself, and he's got quite the crew there with him. But just as far as really awe-inspiring, I think, to me, I was shocked by the reveal, but I was awe-inspired by the visage of Whitebeard.
What was shocking about it? Just his size?
Well, to be honest, the fact that this is Mocktown and everybody's, basically flexing their stats, like, oh, hey, this is Bellamy, here's the Mark of Bellamy, here's, the Executioner guy, he's got his Executioner's head, man. Everybody's kind of got their defining characteristic, and they all, if you're that top dog, that 50 million berry bounty dog, they got something to give themselves some recognition. So how could you be so aware, but you have Blackbeard just like sitting in the street, just like sitting there, just chilling out, like in the middle of block, like forcing everybody's attention on him. And he's like, yeah, by the way, Blackbeard. Like, these pirates, I mean, I think that maybe their chops are a little lacking, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it's obviously intentional to keep the narrative driving a certain way that we wouldn't know, but I would expect more from pirates who seem to be a bit status cognizant, That's just my opinion, but.
And on that reveal of Blackbeard and his crew, and then even his sort of Michael Jackson looking kind of Lafitte guy who interrupts the important government meeting to try to make a certain pirate become a new warlord. Oh, who could it be, Aggie? I don't know. But what do we know about Blackbeard so far? Him and it was a group of 5 were in Drum Kingdom, and we don't know why. And Ace is chasing them because Blackbeard killed one of their crewmates on Whitebeard's ship. I think maybe they were looking for maybe a mushroom-looking devil fruit, but who could say? Who knows what Blackbeard in that same group of 5 were up to? So if Blackbeard is now chasing Luffy and Ace is chasing Blackbeard, do we see any sort of like 3-way conflict coming up, Aggie?
Yeah, I mean.
And maybe Buggy's gonna be mixed in too. Prediction correct alert, Aggie.
I mean, well, I know that I heard an inclination that I might have made a previously accurate prediction, but yeah, I guess this was not exactly where I was anticipating. Buggy to end back up. I'm like, oh, it's then yeah. What was I forget what the exact text on the panel was. It was like the previous afternoon, and it's over on this like Skull Island looking place. And no, actually, wait a minute, Skull Island. Wasn't there something? I think I'm just putting this together right now. Wasn't there something about gold in the right eye of a skull or something like that?
Yes, there was. In this very volume, yes, there was. And Buggy's is following the map to what Captain John's treasure, and maybe he's looking for, maybe for the eye hole for that gold. They had to dig a tunnel and help out the digging team.
I guess I hadn't put that together here. I just now I'm thinking like, hopefully I read closely enough because I think I could have maybe put that together before. But
like, loose clues are loose clues. Everything will be explained inevitably. I hope. I mean, hopefully everything is explained by the end of One Piece. That's yet to be seen. But again, I want to talk about that suspicious dialogue from last time when Luffy and Zoro are walking away from Cherry Pie Man, who we now know is Blackbeard. They say it's not just him. Maybe it's they, them. Other pronouns you want to use, folks. And the question is, Nami's like, what? There's other people with him? Well, now we see, yes, there are. And we met all of these people. So did Luffy and Zoro just get the inkling that all these people had like the same sort of sinister energy and that they must be there together?
Well, I would say, so we obviously had like the Executioner and Bellamy's crew all, maybe I'm looking at this wrong. Maybe it's not commonplace for people to be so forward with their identification as these people are, because otherwise...
Yeah, they're very boastful for sure.
So, yeah, I mean... I think that they definitely had a bit of the apple guy who gave Luffy the apple, so it's a little bit of a concerning sinister energy maybe with that guy. We have, Blackbeard. He's just kind of large and he's got a lot of energy, and he definitely makes his presence known without saying too much. We have the shooter who, killed the seagulls on the... So
just for fun. It seemed like sniper practice, just to kill something.
And then obviously Jesus, he definitely just, once again, they don't know his bounty.
He's a false prophet, and I think the Jews should kill him. So yeah, they're all very sinister.
So, I guess they had reasons to be perceptive of these people above the average level of the other pirates that were there, kind of the background pirates in the pub, in the bar, and walking around and so on. And then we have the other pirates who were very keen to make themselves known and to kind of give the information up. So I would like to say that, yeah, that would make sense that they were perceptive of that. And to be honest, yeah, I wasn't so much. Like, Blackbeard, he was that kind of up there in our faces. He was having these interactions with the Straw Hats. The apple was a bit suspicious at first, but he kind of came and went, so I didn't really linger on that too much to put that and clue him in together with the Blackbeard crew.
Yeah, they were throwing so many new characters at us that you don't really know who you need to pay attention to. So, yeah, like Horse Apple Guy, hopefully we can forget about him, but I guess not.
And I would say that this volume has continued that legacy from the previous volume, because we get a lot of world government and warlords and whoo-wee.
Yeah, which of the two new warlords are you most hyped about between Don Quixote Doflamingo and Bartholomew Kuma? Did either of these stick out more than the other? And I know that Doflamingo he's pretty much a meme. You've probably seen his image before.
Yes, I would say that I think I got familiar with Doflamingo probably, not even knowing what series or anything that he was from up until that we started reading this, and I don't know, maybe I had saw it in something somewhere, but yeah, there was a guy who, back when I used to use Twitter several years ago, he was quite the memer with the Doflamingo picture, and I think there might have been somebody who I used to game with back like 10 years ago who was also into using that imagery. So I'm sure he has to have something, he seems to have personality, and I'm sure he'll have more on display. Kuma, well, I thought it was interesting that he's carrying around the Bible, a good man of God, so...
Will he meet Jesus Burgess and have a conflict?
That's the only Jesus I've seen in One Piece, so, maybe he's got something to say, but other than that, I mean, let's see. Not to say that these guys are outshadowed at all, because obviously we get the bounties of them. We don't need Mihawks. We already have seen what he's capable of, but we get the the bounty levels of the other warlords, or at least what they had previously, just to kind of get a good gauge of their strength. And we could still see that they are magnitudes more wanted.
Yeah, he was closing in on like $500 million or something, right?
So we know these guys are still bad news, and I would imagine we don't get Mihawk's, level displayed the same way we see the strength, but I would imagine that Mihawk is still stronger than these other warlords, so it gives us maybe a good power scaling idea.
In your mind, is when they introduce the 7 warlords, is that kind of like the Akatsuki, or like maybe a better example is like the Pokemon gym badges? Like, are we expecting Luffy, if not just the Straw Hats in general, to one by one defeat all of these guys, or like, is that sort of the idea right now?
I would say for me, on a basic level, that is what I would anticipate. But
if they can be replaced, like, what the fuck can you do? It's like Congress. You get one weasel out, a new one moves in.
Yeah. I think Oda, I trust his sensibilities more than my own to really, make the right story here. I would say that what I could see happening is defeating maybe a couple, let's say like 1 or 2 more of the warlords gets just a very linear overtaking. I think then we're going to see a bit of a more complex social interaction here. It's not going to be just cannon fodder, like, oh, here's the next guy that's 5% stronger. Here's the next guy that's 5% stronger. I think it's going to have more of a socio-political impact going on, to where, sort of how we saw in Alabasta, there was that element to it, like, okay, I'm Luffy, you're stronger than me, you beat me. Now some things happened, and I have the directive or the tactics, the strategy to overcome your strength. I think that we're gonna, not to piggyback off your comments where you were saying that there's a lot more great stuff to come that might even overshadow Alabasta eventually. I think that we're gonna see more of that sort of complex strategy, tactician, certain world events happening that are going to have impact. It's not going to be just such a straightforward, maybe less than ever, such a straightforward defeating of just a baddie. Or maybe we'll see resurgences of, like how we're having Buggy here in this volume. Maybe now it's going to be Buggy X or something. He's got his new strength, his new power, his new knowledge. So there's so many angles I could see it being played from, that I'm not just going to anticipate it to be linear in that way. I think that it's going to have a lot more to it that I couldn't even possibly know at this point.
I definitely was expecting it to sort of follow that linear path. And what I think is interesting is that Oda kind of, by dropping the Giant Skypiea arc after Alabasta, and the characters are literally shooting off into the sky, where I doubt any warlords are waiting. I mean, I don't know. Probably not, though, right? I mean, most people don't even think this exists. So yeah. He's kind of like saying, like, oh, you thought we're going to fight another warlord? I'm fucking shooting us into space. See ya.
Yeah, I have to say, the whole entire... I think, to be honest, as I think about it, perhaps the suspense of that builds between the points of Luffy finishing Bellamy and then leaving Mocktown up to the ascent to the Emperor Cloud. I think the suspense for this whole portion is honestly, to me, that might be my top part of this whole volume. That might be what I enjoyed most, because I thought maybe at first we have Bellamy's crew. They come, and while the Straw Hats are in the jungle and they're chasing the Southbird, Bellamy's crew shows up and basically just wrecks the Monkey Brothers, wrecks Mont Blanc Cricket,
and fucks up their ship too. Yeah, it was brutal.
Breaks it in half, like really devastating. So I thought at first, and then they're having these flashbacks of the sympathetic tearjerker flashbacks of the monkeys, meeting Mont Blanc Cricket and their years of salvaging to find just this bit of treasure to keep the dream alive. And Bellamy's all about, I'm going to crush your dreams. Dreams are for idiots. They never exist. They'll never come true. I thought that was going to be the emotional part of it for me. That was going to, even though, I mean, it was there. it wasn't as significant, but I maybe didn't give it as much time to marinate as I could have.
So you don't think this is the part of the monkey story that made me cry, is what you're trying to say?
Well, I would believe that it would be. I think at least that would be my inclination up to this point, because it was very sad, but I feel like I had enough of an idea still as it's presenting these panels that the Straw Hats could resolve this fairly simply. Like if I had seen these guys take the gold just to go throw it out, then it gets like eaten by a sea monster or something, I think maybe it would have hit a little bit harder. But I think probably something in the back of my mind that there was still resolution on the table, despite how painful this was to everybody involved, everybody who was the victims of it at that time, versus the suspense of, okay, the log post is about to reset if we don't get out of here. We have this exact time frame. We need to go full speed ahead. Oh, by the way, we're slightly off. It's already going. We need to be up there, and it's starting right now. By the way, here comes Blackbeard. He's pulling up. He's about to get you. And even all that, because I really felt, I like to really put on a forward face of bravery, but as Usopp is just like terrified for his life throughout most of this volume about, oh yeah, by the way, if you mess this up even 1%, you're all gonna die. He's like, his terror is palpable to me. And
he's so afraid he's like turning on Cricket and calling him a liar, and like bringing in like his family legacy of 400 years, like, you're a liar just like your ancestor, like really digging deep just out of cowardice. And then I like that moment with Nami when he says, Nami, am I just like a coward? And she says, yeah, and you're stupid too.
Yeah, but
some good character development here. Maybe he'll be less of maybe his cowardice won't lead to accusations and cruelty anymore, but we'll have to keep an eye out on that.
Yeah, I know it's not right. We always want to have our heroes just being completely steadfast, but I think everything considered, the fact that this is like a one chance for something that is not even confirmed at all to exist, it's really just complete legend. It could be an absolute suicide mission.
Yes.
And I think maybe Usopp, especially with his history of being a man of tall tales, he's used to just saying things and then people all believe it. So he's thinking, oh, you're pulling an Usopp on us, just saying something, and it's going to cost us all our lives. And then the ascent on the knockup stream, and the fact that the ship, they suspect that it's going to be a wavering on the angle, and it's going to end up like just peeling off of the current and falling to their deaths. I was really on the edge of my seat, by which I mean I was slightly more tense in bed, laying and reading it on my touchscreen tablet.
And we haven't even seen the end of the scene yet. Like, we haven't seen them safely up in there. Anything could happen.
I'm not gonna lie, this is another volume of firsts. First, me wanting to go find this particular anime episode correlating to this particular chapter. But this was also another first. I gotta say, I kind of did something. I was bad.
You looked ahead.
I want to just say this, okay? What I did was
you had to make sure the crew didn't die in chapter 230.
I turned. Listen, I want to say, not one panel of any upcoming chapters touched my eyes. Word to Most High.
You read like the next volume preview?
I read the title of the next chapter.
What is it?
Because I want... all I know is that it wasn't "We All Died." Like, I just wanted to, like... I honestly don't even remember what it was called, but I just wanted it to be like something that was like inside this, because the Neptunian creature is like falling after the knockup streak. I wanted it to be like, inside the monster stomach or something. Like, it's not that I recall, but
I actually do have that chapter open. High in the Sky is probably a pretty accurate title for what's going on, regardless if they're going to live or die.
Yeah.
They're going to be pretty fucking high.
Low in a watery grave, it wasn't that. So, but yeah, I got to say there was something about just how unknown that the whole situation we're in is. It's really a first of its kind, something that's really just the stuff of legends. And so that had enough of that impact on me that I just needed to have that relief. I was not going to be able to sleep. I was going to be tossing and turning, and
Speaking of which, I think I probably got about 3 hours last night. I could not fall asleep. So if I'm as intelligent as usual on this podcast, that's probably why. But, we're half an hour in, Aggie, and I still have not mentioned we have a new crew member, so let's get into it. The newest member of the Measly crew is Mr. And this looks familiar, but he is a new member. Moon Milk 64.
Moon Milk. Well, you came at just the right time, brother, because right now, we're trailing the Straw Hat crew on the knockup stream. They didn't know that our ship was actually there. It was just such a blast. They didn't see us going up into the sky with the Straw Hat crew, which, to be honest, now I got to keep it real. That's actually why I was so nervous, because we're all going to die if we don't get up there. So I'm hoping we all get there. But what are we going to eat? This is based on science. I know, like, when people go to new continents back in the day, they're going and eating like a leaf and then they fall over dead because it's something their body's not used to. Moon Milk, I think he's going to know. We go up, we're ascending towards the moon. Maybe there's going to be creatures that can get milked up there. That's what we might need to survive for sustenance. Who knows? I mean, the ship it doesn't appear to be falling backwards, but who knows? The cargo could start falling out. This is really uncharted territory that nobody's ever seen ever before. So
maybe there's a road called the Milky Way or the Milky Road, something like that up there that he could be an expert on as he's doing all the other shit you said.
Yes. So I don't know exactly. Would this be like a somewhere between an astrologist and a culinary expert? I don't know if there's such a thing that exists, like somebody who's adept to finding palatable foods in an unknown area, but whatever that is, whatever the title of that is, Mr. Moonmilk, welcome aboard. That's your thing. You're going to figure it out for us.
Food naturist harvester expert. Why not?
That's right.
But somebody has a spreadsheet, throw it in there. Welcome aboard. Aggie, should we talk about oh my god, we have two different cover stories, Aggie. Not only do we finish the Hachi, but we're teased with the start of a new one. Before we even finish Hachi, Aggie, do you have an inkling who the new cover story might be about? It says, even if you killed me, I would not die. And I see some landscape that has mighty big chunks bitten out of it. Who could it be?
I think, this is going to be incredibly shocking and just totally unexpected. It's Wapol. I mean, it has to be Wapol, right?
Is that a favorable choice for the next probably 40 fucking chapters of cover story?
Well, he's definitely got Hachi. So yes, he was Hachi was always good natured to a degree. I think we saw he had a kindness to him, and everything really worked out for him in the end. Wapol, though, I mean, quite the opposite. I think that, even just the text there for that one panel we have that doesn't even feature him, just maybe would imply him, is just this very resistant, oppositional sort of tone. So what I would like to see, I think that there's definitely room for some Wapol development here, that he needs to maybe learn some life lessons in a slice of life way. And I hope that if he's going to be in these upcoming cover stories, that he gets a chance to, soften his heart a little bit, or at least, he doesn't have to become a total noob, but I think he needs a little something, a little tempering.
I think it might be comparable to the Buggy cover story, because it starts off with this villain just got blasted off to a random island by Luffy, and now he's all alone, and he has to kind of build his way back. We don't know what Wapol's going to do. Are you sensing a redemption arc, sort of Hachi style, or do you think it's going to be more of Buggy trajectory where, he's got his crew back and he's hunting down Luffy? It's basically like nothing ever happened in Orange Town.
Well, what I found interesting was how the sniper in Blackbeard's crew that gets revealed here, I'm sure it's just a stylistic thing, but I guess it's been so long, I forget what exactly the guy's name was that was Wapol's henchman. But there's a strong resemblance here in his sort of the way that the sniper is drawn.
Is it Chess?
At Chess, because it's Chess and Marmo. And
Marmo's the black guy, I think.
Yep. So Chess, there's something very Chess-like about. Let's see, I guess he goes by
Van Augur?
Supersonic or Van Augur.
Yeah, Van Augur, Van Augur.
Yep. I guess maybe I don't know if I was going to really have a conclusive statement there with that, but what I thought, I guess my inclination is that if he's able to link back up with his henchmen, I think that they would have an impact on each other where they would keep each other sort of aggravated. I think if Walpole can just have some time out to himself to get this self-reflection going, I think he would have maybe more of an inclination to temper himself. But I think if he links back up with another anti-Straw Hat person, whether that's his own henchman or somebody else entirely.
If Buggy teamed up with Alvida, who is a former Luffy victim that Walpole could now team up with? That's interesting to think about. And you're saying that Chess and Van Augur, you think they look alike? Because that just struck me. If they're potentially related, maybe that's why they were in Drum Kingdom, just to visit his cousin.
Yeah, let me just get a picture of Mr. Chess up here. It's been a little bit. Okay, maybe it's not as significant as I remember. I think the hat maybe was doing a bit of the lifting here, and does he have a... Yeah.
How much do Luffy and Ace look alike anyway?
That's pretty true. I'm going to say that I think I was possibly remembering a little bit incorrectly. I thought that they had a similar style of headwear, but now that I get a good look at Chess again, I'm going to say that I think I'm just not quite correct. He's got a little bit more of that Drum Island sort of Arctic roughness to him versus where Van Augur seems his design is more sophisticated. I think he's got more of a precise element to it, but they're both ranged attackers though also, so there's that. But slight similarities, but I'm going to probably cancel myself out on that idea. But I will stick by, yes, I think Walpole in these coming cover stories, I'd like to see him tempered. I'd like to get some of that self-reflection. I think Buggy even still did before he met with Alvida. He's linking up with Gaimon. He had his time on the island. I think Walpole, I'd at least like to see that if he does end up kind of looping back around into the, the Straw Hat hunters. But, he would have his reason to if he did. He got BTFO'd by Luffy, and, he's never shown a particularly humble streak yet, so I think he would be perfectly fitting to be vengeful.
We will have to keep our eyes peeled for perhaps redeemable qualities in the volumes to come. But let's backtrack to Mr. Hachi, because his hopes and dreams come true. His generosity towards these poor catfish, well, they're gonna, instead of building their own houses back, they're gonna build him a boat that is also a restaurant. They're ripping off the Baratier here. Or Takoyaki or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
I think it's good, Fishman owned business, we can't let these pirates come in, they say, we'll take anybody, they have the live action would have you believe that they have an extremely strict code and they need to make all these reservations and stuff. I don't think that's quite true, but we can't just let them just sit out there cornering the market. There's Fishman-owned businesses that serve the community. We got to have the availability, otherwise you're going to end up having a monopoly that's conglomeratizing your entire populace.
Now, what if, this is a hypothetical, Hachi takes his Fishman restaurant to a mostly human area, and they go to eat there, and he only has images of fishmen framed up on his wall as the great people who have ever lived. Would the humans have a right to demand that there should be a human framed up on the wall as well, and they should be able to potentially kill him and then be wondering why the cops be choking?
They might, start smashing his octopus fritter grill.
Is there like a One Piece equivalent of a boombox that Hachi could destroy?
Well, here's what I'm going to say. Based on the disposition of one Arlong, I think that there's definitely a precedent for fishmen holding a racial bias and grudge over the humans. So I think if they came there and said that, I think Hachi would just be openly racist against humans, and I think that they're not shying away from it at all. So I'm going to say it's probably not going to happen, but, you know, he's got them good octopus fritters. If anybody's inclined, they could still show up and get a tasty frittery meal.
We do like to point out when there's a similarity between the cover story and the contents of the chapter, and here, opening chapter 227, Hachi gets his boat built for him. He's got a new boat. Opening of the chapter, Zoro says, hey, maybe it's about time we got a new ship. And if you recall, last volume, Sanji was saying the same shit at the very end, and Usopp gets very pissed both times. But Luffy reassures him, hey, the Going Merry, part of the crew, don't even think about it. Did you have any thoughts on this? Why do we keep bringing this up? I mean, the ship did get destroyed and rebuilt in this very volume.
That's true. I guess they definitely, I know there was the repairs being made in the last volume, which made sense due to, I mean, it just made sense. There needs to be maintenance done. But
I mean, the monkeys, like, you know, keep destroying their shit, and yeah, the ship's always getting fucked up.
Yeah. I guess maybe it was just this time. It seemed like it could have been something that was just put in the story. It's part and parcel. It's going to just be a part of something that needs to happen, so we can maybe touch on it here or there, just little sort of bits that didn't necessarily tie in everything else. Like, I was kind of reading it that way, but then in this volume, I think, I forget exactly which chapter and which panel, but they have like a panel that depicts the ship, and we're seeing it, at least as far, you know, yeah, last time there was chunks being blown off and we saw Usopp repairing it, but just it depicts it in a way that where it is obviously weathered and it is obviously damaged, and that's even preceding Bellamy's crew showing up and just totally wrecking it. So I think, you know, that's sort of, to me, registered the first sustained deterioration of the vessel, to where I kind of really started putting in my own mind that, okay, they're going to have to do something about that. Which then, okay, the monkeys were going to do it, so okay, that resolves. But then everything, you know, the conflict, the Bellamy attack, okay, now it's the dials cranked up a little bit, a little more tension, a little more anxiety, but they made it all happen.
When you have a lot of emphasis on, like, this ship seems to be falling apart a lot, and now we're having an adventure where the ship needs to travel, like, 10,000 kilometers or meters in the sky, whatever the fuck the math would be. Or do we expect the ship to come back down? Like, how does it come back to the normal ocean without smashing to pieces?
Well, if I had to make a judgment just only based on what we've read so far, I sure hope those giant winged monsters know how to be friendly, and they could just, you know, like, let's say they're up on the Emperor Cloud or whatever, and all of a sudden one of the dudes walking by, like, doo-doo-doo-doo. Oh, hey, I'm just chill. I'm chill like that. Oh, you want to go back down? Okay.
Yeah, they'd be like a bug to him. Yeah,
I highly doubt that is what will happen, but just based off what I've read so far, I think that's the only thing I could possibly think of, because I've seen one ship come down and it did not come down smoothly.
They pull up to Cricket's house. What do you think of this? His house is like built right up to the edge of the shore of the ocean, and it's like half of a house, and then the other half is a plywood, like, palace, you know, like trick. Who builds a house like this, Eggy? Right up to the fucking water like that?
That's a very good question, because obviously he's been here for some years. He landed just by a pure coincidence on these shores. I
believe he found the house there and just moved in, right? Like, he didn't even build this shit.
And
this is the island that homeboy Noland went to.
Yeah, because I remember he said, you know, he was completely dismissive of it all, and then he just sort of happened to coincidentally come to the shore of the island, and he said, all right, it's my destiny. I gotta get this all handled. Maybe I'm trying to remember if that was that he had the house already, because I guess was what he put up the.
He probably put up the plywood fake palace shit. Yeah. Is it lost on you that that Mont Blanc Noland was killed for lying about a city of gold, or the land of gold, and his name is literally No Land. Bravo, Oda. I bet those Japs had no clue.
Well, wasn't something I connected now until you just mentioned it.
Yeah. Well,
is there anything there with Cricket then? Is he's I don't know. he's annoying, and he creeps up through the drain in my basement. In the middle there when it gets cold outside.
You can buy him a Petco and then just let him loose in your friend's apartment. Oh, it wasn't me. Sorry, Biggs. Here's something I found strange. Okay, when Nami finds the children's book, I'm just gonna stare at my notes real quick, make sure I get this all right. They find the Noland the Liar children's book, and Sanji's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that one from when I was a kid." And Nami's like, "What? But this shit was published in the North Blue." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I grew up in the North Blue, didn't I tell you?" Yeah, this seems like some clumsy exposition to say that Sanji's from the North Blue. Because as far as I'm concerned, and maybe it works different in the One Piece world, but book publishing is not limited to regions or oceans. Like, they're in the Grand Line right now with the book. Why can't the book exist in any of the oceans? Why is Nami thinking only North Blue people can read a North Blue story? And this is not like a plot thing. Like, this is like just me like, what the fuck? Why did he write it like this?
Well, then it gets mentioned a bit later on by Bellamy, I believe. I think the way that I read it was, it's sort of like, we all know Bigfoot, right? We know things like that, Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, but like to say for the Loch Ness Monster, for instance, that's originates in like an area of Scotland, right? So even though we all know, if you were to live in Loch Ness, Scotland, or wherever this is, don't quote me on this location, but it's going to be a lot more, I think, culturally significant in the area where the tale or the myth originates. Even though we are all aware of these things at a like kind of a base level, in the culture, it's going to have deeper things. Oh, you're not going to know that this was the sidewalk or whatever that they were walking on when they saw the Loch Ness Monster for the first time, and it was Tuesday at 7:20 a.m. on 1857 or whatever, things like that. So even though we could know it, it's going to be, I think, more resonant from where it comes from, like the origin.
So I wonder if it is a plot hole that Nami has a copy of it in the live action, reading it in the East Blue at the Baratier. Why the fuck was the book there, Nami? Your own character would argue with that, bitch! Anyway.
Yeah.
Just another thing for my upcoming video on why the live action is full of bullshit. Again, I like the propaganda on display in the storybook where the Brave King fights the sea monster. That's pretty good. And, ultimately, the story of Noland is just it's an important parable teaching kids, say, don't lie, you're going to end up like that guy. And this is something that I love. We've talked about this before, about how generations of history and how the different ways that can impact things. And in this story of this man named Cricket, who his family for 400 years worth of generations has been tormented and ridiculed because of something that happened so long ago, and everybody who was in a position of power told the story they wanted to tell, and we have no way of knowing what actually happened. And yeah, I love his story of he just wants to prove it. It's the war between him and the man who ruined his life, as he says, but then when he gets drunk, you can tell he actually admires and loves Noland and has all of his diaries fucking memorized word for word. Cricket's one of my favorite characters. And as I finish and you take a drink, but any other thoughts on Cricket here?
Well, I guess one thing that comes to mind also is, and as we go through the volume, there's greater understanding of Noland and his life and his times. So maybe I'm lifting a little bit from beyond the first chapter 227 here, but I feel like if he did know something, let's say he did know where the gold was, and maybe he was just completely right on. And it wasn't even that he had a wild goose chase, but it was like he was exposing something that was known by people that were more powerful than him. And just for him to talk at all, he needed to be sort of disregarded, discounted, just called out as a liar and a fraud, so that nobody would be inclined to look into what he was saying any further. And then then they execute him. And oh yeah, that crazy old freak. Oh yeah, he was trying to get us all riled up. Let's not worry about what he had to say, because it sounds so ridiculous. Like, oh, he is just a fibber, at first. But then as we get these bits and pieces from what Cricket has to explain further about the life of Noland, then I feel like it seems to give more credence. It seems like there's definitely more under the surface than what we first are kind of inferred with at the beginning of the volume here.
When we reviewed the Gaimon chapter, we talked about it as perhaps a metaphor for the entire story and what the One Piece actually is. And when Luffy gets there and he opens the chest, it's empty. There's no gold there. And the story of Noland kind of parallels Roger, like he's getting executed by the state, and both claim on their deathbed here, hey, there's a treasure out there, I'm telling you. What if Noland was lying, and what if the parallel is, so's Gold Roger? Could it be?
It definitely came to mind, yeah, because it's like, just honestly, even from the last volume where they're talking about like, oh, that there's gold in them there hills, there's gold in them there skull eyes, things like that. Because that was even, we had no knowledge at the conclusion of volume 24 about Noland and his execution, things like that. So first I'm thinking, just off the treasure right there. And then then we get more information about Noland and his execution and the continued hunt that is, paying minimal dividends. But I mean, the gold bird, it's right there. Why are they going to have this gold bird? And
it's like a specific bird to the forest on this island, and they have a over 400-year-old fucking gold ingot carving of it or whatever. Yeah,
that's like the pyramids. If they have something that looks like a spaceship or whatever,
they found. And I like that we got the context for why these fucking salvage monkeys are salvaging. Like, they're just doing it to help Cricket find proof of the gold, and they found that shit right off the coast of the island or whatever. So yeah, the monkeys again completely redeemed in their second volume, but you can continue if you're still going.
I do agree with your thoughts that there's a possible parallel to an eventual Gold Roger, and if we have two so far, and let's see, so what was the first one? I could, maybe it's going to continue on. It's, a pretty healthy spacing so far, so I'm not so inclined, but I think that there's definitely grounds for that to be a theory, absolutely.
And to get back to your gold in the skull's eye, in my notes it is written, I saw the gold in the skull's right eye was the tear-blotted final sentence Noland wrote on the day he was executed. Are you thinking maybe Buggy was just right now so close and did not find it?
Well, I'm going to take it as a misdirection on our part as the reader. I don't know if this is going to have any resolution, especially now since we are blasting ourselves into the sky to unknown places. And I don't think that Noland had any inclination of anything like that.
Well, but yeah, he did, didn't he? In his logbook, he didn't go to any sky island, but they become confident that it exists because in his logs, like, people discussed it as if it was a known thing. Okay,
right, that's true, yeah. I guess the way I'm putting it together is I would just say, I don't think that there's going to be something that fits his final passage in anywhere in the sky. That's what I think, because I feel like it would have been mentioned prior to his final statement. And with him not having been up there, I think as far as we know, then he wouldn't have been able to make that visual. But yeah, I think as far as it being related to the skull that Buggy and Alvida were going in and digging through, I feel like that's a misdirection. Just I feel like it's too obvious to pair it together like that for me. I don't know why I feel that way, but it is just a feeling that I have. I think that we're going to see it somewhere that it might have been hinted at, but I don't think it's going to be such a direct hint.
We've seen the South Bird that some society carved into gold. What else did they value? Some sort of gold bell with the most beautiful ring, Aggie. Are we going to see this bell anytime if we've seen the bird? And the thing about One Piece is, we could come back to this at any time. Like, we might have a big sky adventure, then like 200 chapters from now, come hang out with the monkeys again. So, like, anything could happen.
That's true. I guess just because I don't think, maybe if I went back and looked over Mocktown, if there was anything there that seemed like Bell inclined. I just don't feel like I've really seen anything in my reading that has resonated that way yet. So I get a wild nonsense theory that comes to mind for me is that, did somebody, if the gold bird had made it off of the shore at some point, like it was being taken off somewhere, was the bell taken somewhere for some reason? Maybe it got blown up into the sky and it was like a magical golden bell from the other world, and they're going to get somewhere in the sky and it's going to be up there, and maybe something about that will incline them more clues about the Noland story. Like they're going to say, oh, the bell got blown up on a ship and it landed up somewhere, and the bell has a carving in it. Hey, maybe there's a skull on the bell, and maybe there's something in the right eye of the so it's all very kind of gibberish what I'm saying right now, but I'm just sort of spitballing since I don't have any great foundation for that, I don't think, yet, as it goes.
We do not. I'm just spitballing ideas out into the ether to see what Eggy thinks of him as the One Piece virgin. What do you think of Bellamy's boing boing fruit, where he could like turn his body into springs and bounce around super quick?
Yeah, boing boing is a fine term. I really feel like it's like it could be like the bounce fruit or something.
Little bit lame. Or spring fruit.
To be honest, spring would. But just because when I hear boing, I'm thinking like it's the term that brings to mind, or like the strength of it is just like a pogo stick, but he is very much about winding himself and really building this tension that he then can release and really propel himself. But propel fruit's a little bit too many syllables, I think.
Is it the Boingo Boys band that feels a certain way about little girls? Is Bellamy a sicko? He's a boing boing.
Well, I feel like even besides that, I feel like I've heard
Boingo Boingo. Is that what I said? Yeah.
You said the Boingo Boys?
Yeah, Boingo, I think is what they're called.
I think if I went to go look up boing boing on Urban Dictionary, it also is a allegory for physical intimacy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I guess
I don't
so.
know
That would make sense.
I've absorbed that from, but I think so.
Probably Quagmire.
Yeah.
Good father figure. But yeah, Bellamy, he bounces all around and, destroys some roofs and bell towers, clock towers, whatever the fuck, and then Luffy just kills him in one punch. Nobody believes the drunken retard who's pissing into the ocean and gets the real bounties. Really, a lot of literally me's for Eggy to choose from today, folks. Let's run through them. We've got the reveal of Jesus Burgess. We saw him last time, but now we have his name. That's one candidate. Maybe Blackbeard himself, a man who loves drinking whiskey in the middle of the day outside in public, sitting in the street.
I'm missing a couple of teeth, but the other one's just crowded together to fill the gaps. So, if that had never happened, I would have some obvious gaps. I mean, I think there's precedent there.
We've got Whitebeard, who is also day drinking, and his nurses beg him, please don't drink, it's bad for you. And he says, shut up, bitch, and he keeps drinking. There's him, and there's the drunken guy who's pissing. Which one is the most to you?
Well, I definitely felt the immediate connection to the man pissing into the ocean. I was like, they're going there. And, that was very relatable. And then last night before I went to bed, I was washing my face, and I noticed that some of my scruff is actually coming in white. So I'm actually becoming white.
White beard, wow. Even more than him, because he only has a mustache. I didn't see a beard on that guy. Strange name.
Yeah. My facial hair has never been, the most powerful, but it was like I was kind of just up in the mirror, and I'm like, oh, damn, that ain't just like a, light hair. It was quite like Snow White. So maybe I'm literally turning into Whitebeard. I'm absorbing the material here. I'm taking it so to heart that I'm becoming Whitebeard and Blackbeard and the drunken.
I think a salt and pepper eggy beard would be very distinguished, and you could be Whitebeard and Blackbeard at the same time. I think that would be ideal.
And I double checked out of curiosity, and one. Richard Jordan, not the actor, but he's quite the online entertainer. He's got kind of a, like the chin is dark, but then this all is kind of gray and white. So maybe I'll end up going that direction. We'll see.
So the winner is Whitebeard for Eggy's Literally Me of the Week. Which we should have been doing all 25 volumes in my mind. We fucked that one up.
I feel like if we go back and comb over them, we've probably at least 20 out of the 25 are going to have me saying somebody was literally me. So,
That's true.
I've been charting it, but I think it's been notated in any case.
Some of my all-time favorite are Luffy moments. Here's one right here. He beats the shit out of Bellamy one punch. They say, hey, where you going, Straw Hat? He says, the sky. And he points up, says the sky. Just completely incomprehensible nonsense. Most of them heard him in the bar earlier that day saying he's going to Sky Island. So I guess he's really putting his foot down on that idea for them. But just very badass and cool. Just nonchalantly letting them know I'm going to the sky after I beat the shit out of your captain. And I like that Blackbeard, he defeats Sarquis, which is like the co-captain of Bellamy. He also defeats him in one blow. Just throws his face into the ground and defeats him like Luffy did to Bellamy. And let's talk about Blackbeard with the recontextualization of this being like Ace's mortal enemy and therefore probably not a friend of Luffy. I mean, he's trying to kill him in this very volume. When we meet them at the bar, they order the same food and the same drink, but they have opposite opinions about them. But Blackbeard, he recognizes Luffy won the bar fight without throwing a punch. He believes that the dreams of men and pirates alike will never die. Now that you know that this is like a big antagonist that we've been teased about for 100 chapters, Eggy, what do you think about this character now?
Well, I think that it's refreshing because we've had just pretty consistently, if I were to kind of go through all of our antagonists up until this point, and I feel like I know I said about Crocodile, comparatively, he had a bit more of a tactical sense about, he trained his devil fruit. Up to this point, we're having just such hard-headed antagonists, such cocky and boastful antagonists. And we go to Crocodile, and he's playing a little more of the long game. He's playing a little more of the deep state game. Mm-hmm. All right, we get him out of here, and now we have Blackbeard, who he's not even putting forth any of that like sort of mastermind inclination, like these tendencies, like this, grandstanding, like when all the Baroque Works agents came in and they realized they were under Crocodile for the first time, he was just right there to lord over them and issue these commands, and this was going to be his kingdom, and he's going to be the man, and he's willing to do whatever it takes. I feel like this Blackbeard, he's just kind of giving off more of this sort of genuine energy, like he just knows what he's capable of. He's already an out-and-out pirate. And he's really, if you're going to be Blackbeard, like, you have to be, like, all in on being a pirate. You can't just be, like, some, you can't be in on some world government, plotting and this and all that.
But it sounds like his dude's plotting to make him a warlord.
Yeah, so I think, I don't know if he's going to be the best fit. I think maybe I'll see some more. He's obviously earned a reputation to a degree that he has to have more than what I have observed in the reading so far, but just
Well, we know he was on Whitebeard's crew. He killed one of his shipmates who was under Ace, and then he ran away and formed his own little gang here, and Ace is chasing him down. And I think Lafitte even says, like, my guy doesn't even have a bounty yet. So, why doesn't he even have a bounty? And Aggie, were you in any way affected by the middle initial in Blackbeard's name, Marshall D. Teach?
Well, I did think it was a little suspicious. And I guess, now that I think about it a little bit more, I'm talking about how he's got sort of this happy-go-lucky kind of personality, this sort of just, this sort of genuine authenticity to his energy. That is what I've picked up on the reading here. And all I'm going to say is, I think I know another man with that initial who's quite stamped for his authentic, true, and honest nature.
Who are the D's that we have confirmed? We have Gold D. Roger, the Pirate King, Luffy. Ace was, I believe, a D as well, even though he had a different last name than Luffy. And now Blackbeard. So we're thinking, maybe these D's might be like a family in common of some kind, and maybe a clan of good guys, but like Blackbeard, like a D in Ace is hunting down a D in Blackbeard.
Well, what's interesting is when I think about it, we go back to the starter zone, the starter island, dream versus destiny. Those are both D words.
That's right.
Is it maybe perhaps, this is just so out of left field, but while I'm thinking about it, is the D something like that's your like you're stamped of a certain, I don't know how they would give you the determination not to keep on being a D, determination at birth or whatever, that maybe you just have you're built different. Oh my goodness, the D's, the different determination that you're dreaming versus destiny. So here goes the D.
Blackbeard gives this very famous speech about dreams right here. Could the D stand for dreams? Dreamers? I don't know.
That's the first inclination I've had towards this, I think, up until this point, to tie the initial in. But I think now that we're having the pattern established here, it seems just as possible to me as anything else. Goldie Roger, he's the man. He's the One Piece man. He's the creme de la creme of this whole golden age of pirates. The man who really kicked it off.
Okay, before we dive into more Whitebeard, we do get Ace and Buggy hanging out, partying together on the ship, and they become fast friends, of course, because when Buggy finds out that Ace is from Whitebeard's crew, he says, "Folks, listen, we do not fuck with Whitebeard. That's the one guy we do not fuck with. I met him on the Grand Line long ago." What do you think of that, Aggie? Buggy? And we know Buggy used to be on a crew with Shanks. And right. Back in the day, they met Whitebeard, and then we see, Shanks and Whitebeard are about to maybe meet up again. That's kind of what the world government's really preoccupied about.
Yeah, I guess, I never quite put Buggy in that Grand Line category, but we know he was a part of the crew. Obviously, there's a lot of pirate crew members that we saw like in Mocktown here that are not the strongest. I think we're our power level of the Straw Hats is certainly exceeds a lot of, we're exceeding Crocodile, but I think just the Grand Line now for where we're at, we have a sort of where you can be a comfortable participant as long as you're under a certain leadership, and obviously Whitebeard's the greatest of all time. So, well,
not of all time. Roger was better, and Buggy says Whitebeard's the only man who could fought on Roger's level.
Right. So I should say yes. Currently as it stands, based on the descriptive panel that accompanies his introduction, the strongest man in the world. So I think that he could certainly compensate to have some weaker crew members. I'm just thinking of, the power scale of Buggy. I think our introduction to him, really, he should have been above the level, above the strength, and above the capability that he would have been at if he had been, just a crew member on the Grand Line. So, and obviously he's strong enough to have his own crew and everything. So I'm kind of just placing these power levels in my head as I go through this. Sorry, I might have got a little off track there, kind of rolling all that through my head. But, yeah, I think it's going to be quite the converging of different, and I've been saying this for a while, I think even since Logtown. But, I mean, if this is what we build up to, where we have, maybe we're going to have Blackbeard, Ace, Buggy, are going to come into some kind of meeting while the Straw Hats are in the sky, and who knows what they're going to do up there. Maybe there's enough, I think, potential for them to have a sort of parallel storyline going on among themselves. Maybe then the Straw Hats come back down, and there's we start leaning towards making contact with Whitebeard. I might be spinning a few too many plates right now.
Well, he threw 1 billion plates at us in Jaya. Like, of all arcs so far, Jaya just has the most nonsense thrown at the reader that will then, like, be sorted through in the next 1,000 chapters.
So that's very true. But as it stands for me right now, so we know Buggy and Ace, they're making contact. They know they're familiar. We know that Whitebeard, we've been introduced to him. He's received the communication from Ace, right? And he said
from Shanks.
Shanks, yeah.
Yeah, and
Shanks.
He rips up the letter and says, "Fuck this! I know it's about Blackbeard and Ace. I don't care. If Shanks wants to talk to me, he does it face to face, man to man. Get out of here, Rockstar."
Right. I like that. Yeah, this Rockstar guy is kind of interesting too. He's acting like he's not acting. He's got quite the bounty that's significant. It's equivalent pretty much to Luffy's. So he's got a name for himself, and then.
Yeah, and I like that he makes Rockstar just look like such an insignificant bug compared to Whitebeard. So it's like, yeah, here's a guy that's basically Luffy level, and compared to Whitebeard, he's fodder, like a little coward nonsense. You know,
not even worthy reading a letter that he's delivering.
Yeah.
It's just less than nothing.
Like, he's as big as Whitebeard's leg. Like, this dude is like legit like a fucking half giant.
Yeah, that is a little suspect. I don't know. Like, we see Blackbeard is quite large in stature, but that seemed a bit unusual just how large Whitebeard was to me. But so at least I know Whitebeard. He's aware of the conflict between Blackbeard and Ace. So there's at least that point made to where this could be drawn into something else moving forward. But we know for sure Ace and Buggy have contact. We know Ace is looking for Blackbeard. Blackbeard was trailing the Straw Hats. The Straw Hats have been blasted up, and as far as I could tell, Blackbeard
his ship got destroyed. Like, his ship was like just like trees tied to, like, as basic of a giant raft, lazy design ship as possible. Just a giant raft with a ship. And what do you think of his pirate flag with its 3 skulls on it and like 8 sort of bones going around?
I thought it was pretty cool. I
love his ship and his flag.
That's like the deluxe. I guess not to tie our universe into the One Piece universe, but like Blackbeard's like, we all know it, like Blackbeard. It's not the same guy, but that's like the pirate stamp. If there's going to be somebody that's just referenced in any kind of media, pirate based, that's going to be something that they're going to lean towards pulling from, I think. But anyways, get back to my mental process here.
Overstand your mental.
That's right. I've also been told there's inner standing as well. That's one thing I got. The inner standing, I'm feeling it out right now. Inner standing my mental. Buggy and Ace, they have contact. Ace, he's looking for Blackbeard. Blackbeard basically just got completely BTFO'd by natural weather, so he's not going up into the sky with the Straw Hats. He's still down there in enough of a general area to where that's definitely reachable by Ace. So that could be something that goes there. Maybe Ace and Blackbeard have some conflict. Shanks is aware of it. He's trying to get in touch with Whitebeard. Maybe then we have Shanks makes a reemergence due to this conflict. that's just kind of what I feel like is a possibility right now. I'm not even going to try to tie Whitebeard into any more of this. I think we would have further to go as far as that premise before Whitebeard would, because I mean, he's not even willing to read about it. He doesn't care at all. So I think in order to tie him in, there's going to need to be something a little bit stronger.
Well, isn't Shanks and his crew preparing to go meet with Whitebeard when we see them at the end of this volume? And he says, like, hey, if the Marines want to get in our way, fuck them. We'll fight straight through it.
Yeah, that's true. I'm pretty sure that you were completely you're completely correct there. But if he's trying to have the correspondence about this though, and if Whitebeard is not even willing to read anything about it, I could see maybe that not going completely in that direction. I think there's probably just as much of a premise for either thing happening, but if I'm going with my gut here, that's probably what I would say is that, maybe we'll see, maybe in the next volume, there'll be a pretty quick correspondence between Rockstar and Shanks. He's going to tell him the deal. And then maybe there's going to be some other bit of information. That's just how I'm feeling. I don't know. Maybe there's not any logic to it. But these are just ways I could see it coming together. Because of maybe just as much as he goes talk to Whitebeard and they just kind of yell at each other and then he sends him off. Whitebeard dismisses him and he ends up going to try to find Blackbeard and Ace anyway. Maybe reconnects with Buggy at that time to, link up, or not link up, but something about their past comes up maybe. I think there's just so many ways it could go, but these are just some of the ones that I could contemplated going.
Do we have an inkling who Buggy and Shanks's pirate captain was? Because they evidently faced Whitebeard and lived to tell the tale.
Well, there's only one guy that I've been hearing is...
Buggy seems to know pretty clearly somebody who could fight Whitebeard. I wonder how he knows that.
I think there's only one bit of information that I can think of in that way right now, and it might be a man who started a certain golden age of piracy, perhaps.
Might have been Crocodile back in the day. Who could say? Probably.
I don't know too much.
Aggie, the end of this volume is the end of the Jaya arc, so we need to throw it on our tier list, Aggie. Do you need to hear where you put some other things, or do you have a good inkling? You've got S tier Alabasta, A tier Baratier and Arlong Park, and then mostly everything else is in B tier.
I want to put this, I'm going to give it probably the bottom A tier. I think as far as kind of what transpires here, it's not like for where we're at in the story, the level we're at, the pacing we're at, there's nothing here that's like so shocking or so how do I say this? there's a lot of fantastical things going on, like really when we entered the Grand Line, it was just this new world of adventure, and this is really just the suspense here, the unknown, the fantasticalness of anything, with things coming and going from the sky, with the 400 years of Mont Blanc history. I think that there's enough there to compel me to give it this bottom A, versus the conflict. Yeah, there's not really a lot of action to chew on. The lore is pretty healthy, but at the same time we're getting all these introductions of new characters, and we're not getting a lot of room to expand on these new characters. But I think just for the reasons I mentioned of the fantastical elements to it and the potential discovery of such wonders, I think that it's going to get it the bottom A tier for me.
I will also be going to A tier. Not quite at the bottom, because I do have Logue Town at the bottom of my A. This will definitely be above that. Unfortunately, this arc does have an opening 3 or 4 chapters with salvage monkeys screaming and being annoying, and I don't think it's that funny, so it does, it is part of the arc, even though they're not at Jaya yet. It is what it is. But like everything in this volume especially was just peak One Piece for me. Like this is an S tier volume as far as I'm concerned. And the artwork on the cover, I especially like. It has Luffy and Shanks and Blackbeard and Buggy on it. Like that's a great cover. So yeah, I'll have it A tier. Let's have it below Baratier and above Logtown. Aggie, do you have any other thoughts on Jaya or any other predictions for the future?
Well, I will just say one thing too, because it just opens up with the volume. The volume opens up with this statement, so I thought I would just mention it here. Oda has a sketch of a Jin Shinga, I believe that's the correct pronunciation, who this volume was dedicated to. They worked on Rurouni Kenshin together, and in the midst of him, it was actually the chapter 233, the cover there has a sort of a black bordering to it, which is to symbolize like an RIP to Jin Shinga. So, and
the artwork is Zoro in the River Styx, Aggie. Yeah, good memorial. Some people think it's a sign that Zoro will die by the end of One Piece, become the real king of hell.
I guess I didn't realize it was the River Styx. I just kind of took it as like a regular river. But
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's an artistic interpretation, I believe, but it's something. And that is an iconic chapter of One Piece, because we didn't even mention, really, we meet the 5 elders of the entire world, like these 5 old men just hanging out. What did you think anything of these guys? They were talking about Luffy, weren't they? Like, this motherfucker in the straw hat beat up Crocodile and bullshit. Now Shanks wants to meet with Whitebeard. I'm so sick of my job.
Yeah, it is certainly a look behind the curtain for something that we haven't really seen before. But in my opinion, other than the introduction of the Warlords and then Lafitte.
And we get the leader of the Marines too, Sengoku, Buddha Sengoku.
Right. So I just felt like it's there, but I feel like it needed a bit more to chew on for me to really get into it. Right. To really, like, the introduction, we got that laid out, but for me, despite that, it just was a little bit lacking of a development there for me to really say too much about it right now. But it's good that they're there. It's good that we're having this introduction and that it's being established. But I think that's just where I kind of stand with them right now. I'm sure they're all very interesting people and have a lot of great lore, but I'm kind of going for, I'm chewing on what's the most prominent right now because there's so much. So that's my take on that.
What's your take on if Whitebeard is the strongest man and Mihawk is the strongest swordsman, who wins in a fight? And do we have to settle that on my PlayStation 4 later tonight?
Well, that's certainly one way to do it, yeah. I want to say that Whitebeard could take him. I think he's, as far as what's been established of their histories in the world so far, I think that's where I would put my chips, would be on Whitebeard.
And do we think maybe Shanks and Whitebeard, if they're really going to meet up here and he tells his crew be prepared to fight, do we think Shanks missing a whole arm stands a chance against the world's strongest man? Probably not, right? Hopefully he can talk no jutsu his way out of that one.
Yeah, and if we're having, I mean, I don't know if it would be just beyond the pale to like jump Whitebeard, but I believe he.
Well, he's like he seems pretty sick. Like he has 6 nurses around him, and he has like breathing tubes in his nose. Like what the fuck? What is wrong with Whitebeard? We didn't even touch that. He's just old.
Yeah, once again, it's kind of just one of those things where it's there, but we have so much here right now to kind of like it's good to notate, but I feel like the development of it, there's not enough for us to really dig into right now comparatively. So, but yes, he seems to have something. I mean, he's old, it looks like. But if he's the strongest in the world right there with these ailments even still, that could spell a lot of danger for a lot of people if he's in the process of recovering and they want to fight.
Okay, Aggie, I think that's all we've got for this volume. What can people find at rumble.com/C/Aggie White?
Well, I think a couple volumes ago I said, there's probably going to be a little hectic situation because I was operating a stream adjacent group chat that had become quite feral. Once I made the decision to toss that out, the ferocity just kind of went a little too much. And it was kind of a whole thing. I have like a statement I made about it, but basically, I think we all kind of decided we maybe need a little time to just kind of chill out a little bit. We might have been spending a little too much time, a little bit too much parasocialness. So,
well, but this won't be out for another 2 weeks, Aggie. Surely you'll have another stream out by then, right?
Yeah, I know we got Valentine's Day coming up. That's always historically
That's going to be a big day for the Aggie stream, Valentine's Day. Yeah, I mean, maybe I'll show up. What else would I be doing that day?
I don't know if I've missed a Valentine's Day stream, because even when I've had my hiatuses, I think I've always hit it every year. So we shall see.
I think this is the most hype individual volume of One Piece maybe ever, just with how many different insane important characters are thrown at us and big reveals, and fucking even Wapol is gonna get a cover story hypothetically. So much to look forward to.
Yeah, it's like almost like a Christmas morning kind of feeling because there's just so much to have going on.
Did you pick up on Doflamingo's power? Because he was kind of making the Marines kill each other. He's like doing this with his hands, and they're fucking fighting each other. What could that be?
The suggest fruit.
Power of suggestion. Yeah, that it very well could be.
He seems to be quite a. I don't want to say flamboyant because we just had Mr. 2, and I feel like they're not quite. But he's kind of almost like, whereas Mr. 2 was sort of like Doflamingo with his appearance kind of strikes me as more of like, like flashy and showy, but in a kind of a different way. I guess that's just what my thought from seeing him for that bit of time. So maybe there's something to that. Maybe he
does seem to be like also a bit of a shit stirrer. Like when Lafitte interrupts, he's the only one who's like, yeah, let's give him a chance. I don't know, fuck it. Like he just kind of wants to have fun. So I'm looking forward to more Doflamingo. Hopefully next volume we get a whole bunch more of him. That's it. We'll see you for volume 26, folks.